This is something we caught wind of yesterday and we worked on it today. And this one surprised me, not on the surface, but when I began to learn more about what's going on here. Richard Seymour, who was involved in the hiring process that resulted in the Raiders making Antonio Pierce the full-time head coach and Tom Telesco the new GM. Richard Seymour sat in on interviews. And now we know why. Richard Seymour is in the process of buying a piece of the Raiders. And that actually predates Tom Brady's attempt to buy a piece of the Raiders. It's been going on for about 4 years. And this is a product of what Al Davis had done for much of his time as owner of the Raiders, ahead of his time. Visionary, inclusive, diverse. Tom Flores is the head coach. Art Shell is the head coach. Amy Trask is the CEO of the Oakland, Los Angeles, Las Vegas Raiders, although she was gone by the time they moved to Las Vegas. This is Mark Davis with a commitment to equality and diversity, reaching out to Richard Seymour several years ago and getting him in the fold. My understanding is that Seymour and Tom Brady, because Tom Brady had that deal, and it was for about 10% of the team, had that deal that was discounted dramatically by Mark Davis. I think at one point Davis was going to hire Tom Brady and pay him equity in lieu of salary or in addition to salary. Once that went away a year ago, they had to take a closer look at the numbers. It was Jim Irsay, the Colts owner, who said during the October league meetings that there's too much of a discount that Davis is giving Brady. They've since been working on it. My understanding is the thing that is going to push this across the pun intended goal line, I couldn't think of a better metaphor, is Seymour and Brady coming together. Seymour and Brady, as I understand it, are going to own 10.4% of the team. Seymour's got partners working with him. Brady's got partners working with him. They're going to own that 10.4% together. Now, Brady was initially going to have 10 by himself. So to rectify this issue with Davis trying to give Brady a sweetheart deal, Brady's going to own a lot less on his own than he was supposed to. It's Brady and Seymour together for 10.4%. My understanding is it's very close to being finalized. Then the league would take it up in October at the next ownership meetings, 24 votes necessary to gain approval. And the addition of Seymour, and I think the fact that at the end of the day, it's going to be fair market value for that 10.4% of the Raiders, that's going to be enough to get it done. There's also that lingering question about Tom Brady's job with Fox. Remember back in May, the commissioner said something about they've come up with guidelines or parameters or whatever for Brady's work with Fox, given that he'll have a clear conflict of interest when he's at Chiefs practice this year. Chiefs 49ers play on Fox. You go to Chiefs practice, go to Chiefs meetings. You're going to be an owner of the Raiders at that point. They've got guidelines in place. They wouldn't tell me what the guidelines were after the commissioner mentioned guidelines, which is odd because I don't know what he would have said if somebody would have followed up and said, what are the guidelines? Well, we're not telling you. And I don't know. At some point, we got to know what the guidelines are. Because at some point, we got to be able to look at the guidelines and say they are or aren't good enough. It's not good enough to just say, trust us, there's guidelines. What are the guidelines? How far do they go? And look, I stand by my previously articulated position that it's not too much to expect Tom Brady to pick a lane here. Either be an owner of the Raiders or a broadcaster of all NFL games on Fox, but not both. Because they do have an inherent conflict. I'm not against somebody being ambitious and entrepreneurial and trying to make the absolute most out of their life and buy as many things and be involved in as many things as they want. But this is a situation where the two things, to me, don't mesh. You've got a clear duty of loyalty, a fiduciary duty to the Raiders, and that duty is going to be undermined. Anytime you become aware of something, it's going to be tested. It's going to be violated. You got a duty to Fox to not misappropriate the information that you get at these meetings. Your duty to the Raiders would suggest anything you find out that can help the Raiders, you better tell the Raiders. So it's just a position he shouldn't want to be in. It's kind of like when we talk about the commissioner being the person in charge of handling arbitrations involving the teams that have hired him and that pay him. You shouldn't want to be in that situation because it's clearly a conflict of interest. Anyway, The good news for Tom Brady is the involvement of Richard Seymour apparently is going to get this thing to the point where it's been unable to get since we first became aware of Tom Brady potentially buying a piece of the Raiders in February, I believe, of 2023. It feels like it's been around a lot longer than that, but I think it's only a year and a half that we've been dealing with these issues. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.